affirmative action here on Morning Live. With us in studio, we have Jason Ngobeni. He is the City Manager of the Tshwane Metropolitan Municipality. And joining us from our Pretoria studio is Dirk Herman. I beg your pardon, it's not Dirk, it's Piet Leroux. He, of course, is a Senior Researcher at Solidarity Research Institute. Dirk was meant to join us, but Piet has come on his behalf. So, Piet, thank you very much. Jason, thank you very much. Now, let's pick up the conversation. And, Jason, let me ask this question to you. You know, we've got high levels of black unemployment in South Africa. Was it an easy decision for you as a municipality to come and say, all right, by 2017, we need to have more white faces up on the upper management level, whereas as it stands right now, they're too few? What led you to this decision?
Leon, I think the fact that there's existing legislation made it a little easier for us to put the plan together. I mean, if you look at the Constitution is very specific about equality. The Employment Equity Act is very specific about ensuring that the employment profile of especially government reflects the national and regional demographics. So if you look at, if you take that as a guideline, our national and regional demographics, Tshwane is the one place with the highest concentration of Afrikaner-speaking people in South Africa. We've got also a fair representation of Indian people. We've got a fair representation of colored people. So we cannot ignore the status quo, which is unrepresentative. And hence, when we put the plan together, we looked at what are those numbers that would empirically, scientifically, or mathematically represent that profile that exists demographically in the city. And I think the plan we put together is a plan that can stand any test of time. And yes, we are committed to it. We are committed to implementing the Constitution on equality. We are committed to implementing the Employment Equity Act in ensuring that we redress the imbalances of the past. So yes, 2017, we would have employed at least, I can say this, that I've got deputy city managers that are reporting to me. In the instant that any one of them would resign tomorrow, the replacement of that person would be from the designated groups. Yeah. Because that's how we can achieve the implementation of our plan. But I think let me respond to Pete's question about employing black people and compromising on skills. I think it's wrong to create an impression that whenever you employ a black person, you've completely disregarded the fact that they have skill. I mean, currently, Leanne, we have within our profile, a much larger representation of a category that we call professional. I mean, these are engineers, these are artisans, these are people with skills and qualification. Yeah. And we've got a higher number from black people. And if you look at skilled, exactly the same situation. We've got a higher number than any other designated group. So we can't ignore that.
That there are skills. You are looking at skills at the same time.
The Employment Equity Act is very clear. You know, in the event that we don't find a black person, if that position must be filled by a black person, and that black person can't be found immediately, we have to employ someone else to ensure that there is no service delivery breakdown. Okay. So that is clear to us.
Pete, let's bring you back into the conversation now. Solidarity actually lost a court case in the Cape Town Labour Court where the judge ruled that the demographics of the area be taken into account. Now, I know that Dirk Herman was quoted as saying this victory is significant. What did he mean by this? What exactly, if you can explain this to us, and perhaps related to the conversation we've been having?
We actually won the case. The case was won on behalf of employees of the Department of Correctional Services who were denied promotion or employment in new positions simply because of their race. And we are appealing some of the clauses in the judgment, but overall we were given, it was said that our arguments was correct, and that the regional demographics has to be taken into account in the appointment in terms of the Employment Equity Act. Jason has mentioned that he will make appointments from designated groups. It is important to remember that the Employment Equity Act nowhere makes white males. They are the only group who cannot be called designated groups. So I'm not sure how Jason would want to appoint some white males if they fall under representation. And it's also important that if Jason wants the employees of Tshwane Metropole to reflect the regional demographics, he should bear in mind that 59.4% of people aged 40 to 64, those are people typically in senior positions, 59.4% are white. And if you go age 30 to 64, people with a degree, people who would be eligible for the positions Jason mentioned, 52.3% is white. So, Jason, to reflect the regional demographics, there is a significantly other number game you play. We don't want to play that game. We think it's a wrong game. But if you want to play that game, at least you have to play it by the correct numbers.
All right, just very quickly, would you like to respond, Jason?
Well, I mean, if we play the numbers game, really, it means we should be doing something very drastic. We should be reducing the number of white males that are overrepresented in the city. And we've got a plan that smoothes that out. You know, I mean, we can't put a plan that says there's an overrepresentation of white males and still employ white males. We're not redressing the situation.
Yeah. Let me pose a final question to Piet. Government says that affirmative action is here to stay, and that's the reality. What are you saying to this?
Oh, well, I wish they would. Well, if it was affirmative action and redress, that would be fine, and we could discuss on better and worse ways to do so. But what is happening now is emphatically not affirmative action. It is not redress. It is a numbers game trying to reflect the national race demographics, and anything that isn't in line with that is prima facie evidence for discrimination. That simply can't be the case. It is unsustainable, and it creates the impression, in the end, that Jason says I create. It is one he creates, that black people need these sort of measures in order to get somewhere in life.
Okay, Piet. Jason, final word from you. I mean, your role is not to defend government policies, but to rather implement them. What would you say to Dirk on his stance of what he just said?
Well, I mean, Piet, that's Piet. What Piet should know is that we are one of the metros with a established training and leadership management unit, which is one of state of the art. And part of what we're doing as an ongoing process is to ensure that all the people, without discriminating, all the employees that we have in the city are adequately trained with all the expertise that we require in providing the services. So yes, he's right. For us, it's not a numbers game. If it were a numbers game, you would have read from a lot of front pages of newspapers, and you would have also reported it that we are reducing and redressing the numbers, but that's not the case.
Yeah. All right. I know this conversation could continue, but we're going to have to leave it there. Piet, apologies for calling you Dirk so much. It's all scripted as Dirk, but thank you for coming in and sharing your views with us. Piet Leroux, I'm glad you think it's an honor. That's a good thing. Piet Leroux, the senior researcher at Solidarity Research Institute in our Pretoria studios. Thank you very much for joining us. And Jason Ngubeni, he is the city manager of Tshwane Metropolitan Municipality. Thank you. Thanks for joining us.